All right, great. Well, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me. Are you hearing me okay, by the way? Yep. Okay, all right. It's an interesting venue. I mean, this is the first time I've given a talk where there's a skybox, so that's where the celebrities are, by the way. I saw Andrew Ng up there before. Yeah. But isn't that great? We're in a place where a Stanford University professor can be considered like a rock star. Isn't that something? Okay, but anyway, we're not here to listen to this. Let's get to the point of the talk, which is for me to get a selfie. All right? So that is the point. And all right. Okay. So we're done. No, all right. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm VP of Data Science, work for a group called HAWS. It's a small company here. We do accounts receivable services and softwares. And I have been doing data science for quite a while. I actually was in the very first time Andrew Ng presented that machine learning class. I was finishing up my PhD at Portland State, took it. So it was really cool. So that's a little bit about me. In addition to the data science, I'm pretty passionate about systems thinking, which is complexity science. And I have actually written a book. It's not the book, but I have written a book on it called Systems Thinking for Business. If you want to see it afterwards, I have a copy here. And, I'm going to bring some of that into the talk as well. So I want to learn a little bit about you. So how many of you here are actually software professionals, software engineers? Okay, most of you. Okay, good. How many of you are actually now in machine learning? Okay, not many of you. That's good. All right, how many of you are now employed, fully employed with one organization, say? Okay, a good number of you. How many of you are kind of freelancers but have a favorite client or a client you do a lot of work for? Okay, so those of you that raise your hands in the second group, you're really my target audience here. So I'm not going to talk a lot about machine learning per se, but one thing I will say, it's like software. It's a skill. So you don't sit here in this conference or watch a talk on YouTube and get it. Right? You have to do it. You have to try it. You learn as you do it. And so it's a skill. So all you here are software professionals. You want to get into machine learning. You need to practice it. Well, what are you going to do? Like, I forgot his name, but he did the wine thing, and John. Yeah, John. Thanks, John. Thanks, John, for helping me. So he worked, at night, drinking wine and doing his study, which is one way to do it. Okay, but what if you could go into your workplace and do machine learning? Right? Wouldn't that be great if you actually get the skill you need to build up your skill sets in machine learning while you're doing, whatever job you're doing right now? That's what I'm going to be talking about. So you could say just, go to work tomorrow and tell your boss, hey, I got this new machine learning capability, and kind of hope that he will just drop a nice machine learning project in your lap. I don't know about that. So who's a movie buff here? Some movie buffs? Okay, tell me what movie that is from. Field of Dreams, great. And the famous saying that comes from that? Yeah. If you build it, they will come. So the movie, if you haven't seen it, it's Kevin Costner, and he hears his voices that say, if you build it, they will come. And he's a farmer, and he plows up his cornfield, builds a baseball field, and lo and behold, a bunch of ghosts come, and, I think he meets his father. Does he meet his father as a ghost or something? I don't know. Anyway, so I've kind of forgotten the movie. The point is, it's, this saying this saying is in the Bible. I think it's in Noah. God tells Noah, build the ark and the animals will come. It's also, if you build a better mousetrap, they will beat a path to your door. So there's lots of incarnations of this. But in real practical life, how well does this work out usually? Not really so good. So what I'm going to talk about today is being more proactive. I'm going to give you a way to go into your work and propose a machine learning project to your boss. And I'm going to give you, I'm a manager, so I kind of think like them. So I'm going to let you know what concerns are in their head, and I'm going to give you ammunition to hit his concern or her concerns head on. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to do it fast, so we're going to get out of here in time too. So proactively address management's concerns. I'm going to introduce you to a tool called value stream mapping. That's from Lean. We're going to use focusing the Pareto rule. And at the end, of course, I have to have a feedback loop. We're going to create a virtuous cycle to build on your wins. This picture is a Luddite. You all know what a Luddite is? Does anybody know what a Luddite is? No, it was not in the Field of Dreams movie. No, the Luddites were the 18th century when mechanical, factories were getting automated. The Luddites were a group in Britain who went in and tried to sabotage the machines, and they threw rocks and all that stuff. And anyway, there was anti-technology, so we want to address Luddites. Today's Luddite is scared of machine learning, say, or AI. Okay, so the first thing you're going to have is your manager, you're going to go, hey, I want to do a machine learning project. Your manager says, oh, but we don't have the software or the compute power to do that. Now, they're in a different paradigm. Remember, you're here in this room, you're kind of seeing the future. You've seen the light. And you all, you know Python and everything. So you need to go back to him and say, no, boss. So he's probably thinking, oh my God, I'm going to need to buy all these servers so you can do this machine learning. I'm going to have to buy this expensive SaaS software. Has anybody heard of SaaS? It was, like the number one analytics software for many, many years. No, boss. We don't have to make all those investments. You need compute availability. You can pay for it, as you need it. I mean, you can even put your credit card. It's so easy. You can get that done. No, we don't have to buy any software. There's Python. There's R. It's all open source. No, we don't have to buy any special stuff to put on top of Python. We have all these great libraries, TensorFlow, Pandas, on and on and on. So don't worry about that, boss. Okay, well, your boss is going to be persistent. Now the boss says, well, wait a minute, I hear all these buzzwords. There's BI, there's AI, there's ML, there's analytics, there's big data. I can't even frame this problem. I don't know how to think about it. So I'm going to give you a tool to use. And what I like is I start with this slide from Gartner. Who's seen this one? This is a pretty common slide. The reason I use a Gartner slide is it has some credibility behind it. It's the famous consulting group Gartner. They've come up with this. There's two axes. The y-axis is value, so value to the organization. And the x-axis is difficulty. By the way, I forgot to mention, these slides are all on SlideShare. And I tweeted out the path to that. If you follow me on Twitter, please follow me on Twitter. You'll get to the path of these slides, so don't worry about trying to copy anything. All right, so value to the organization and difficulty, and you kind of see this line going up and to the right, indicating that the more difficult stuff is going to be a little more value. And then he talks about the time frame. So hindsight On the left, you're kind of looking back into the past. You're describing what had happened. Insight, you're kind of looking for how things are and how you can understand the problem to do better. And then foresight, prescriptive and predictive types of things. And then what I do on this is layer on one more piece. So if you imagine a axis coming out of the slide, that's the data set size. So if he's, well, what's big data, little data? Okay, well, that's this axis. It's independent of these other things. These on the left side, sort of the looking back, that's business intelligence. So the typical reporting, dashboards, KPIs, all that kind of stuff. That's business intelligence. The stuff on the right, data science, that's the predictive. And you're proposing to your boss to do some machine learning, so you're showing him, hey, this stuff on the right, that's the higher business value. This is how you can think about it. So now you've got your boss, he has a framework to think about this. Now this really has 4 dimensions, and unlike the lady today who could think in 400 dimensions, even 4 challenges me. So there's another axis you could imagine here, which is automating an operations versus providing information to frame decisions. And either one of these things can be a result from any area in this space. So for example, at our company, we have actually processes where we go through and monitor our accounts that we're processing and choose the best ones to work on. So that's actually in the flow of operation. And then we have other ones that we use and run on a batch, and it provides some information to management to make decisions. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so now your boss has an idea. He's framed the problem, but he says, okay, well, what should we work on? And you notice the picture here, you see dollar bills flying around. Well, they don't want, your boss, she doesn't want to work on just anything. She wants to work on something that makes money for the company or adds significant value to the organization. Okay, so the tool I'm going to teach you here is called value stream mapping. Who knows Lean? Okay, a few of you know Lean. Who here knows Agile? Okay, good. I'm going to argue Agile is a manifestation of Lean. We can debate that later, but anyway, this value stream mapping comes from Lean, and the idea is let's say you have a production line. It's the easiest way to think of it. If you look at each step in the production line, there's a movement of material that could be mapped. There's also movement of information that's going along as you produce a particular widget or whatever it is you're doing. And very often that information flow is not necessarily going the same direction. It can be going in opposite directions. So a value stream map puts that all down on paper so you can see how information is flowing in your process. And then what you want to do, the idea of the Lean, is you remove waste from the process. You remove waste from the process, it gets more efficient. You can produce the desired output at a lower cost or reducing the required inputs. So that's what we're going to think about. What you want to do is focus on points of high leverage. Now, we're machine learning, so we're probably going to be we're going to pay a lot of attention to how information is flowing, how information is feeding into your particular process. Okay, so you're saying, well, okay, I don't know about that. Seems like it's for somebody making cars or something like that. Okay, well, you're all software people. I think most of you are probably using Agile, so let's look at value stream mapping for an Agile process. And how could we find machine learning projects within that to add value? So I found a couple of links here. They're on the slides. and it maps through. Now, when I think of Agile, I would want a feedback loop because you're constantly, you're doing your sprints and you're producing something. You're going to your customer and say, is that good? Yes, no. And they say they like it, they don't like it, and you iterate. But what could you do to support, let's say you're trying to just build a machine learning application to help your group doing Agile. Okay, well, you could do something in terms of collaboration. And Hamel from GitHub just had some code in his sequence-to-sequence models where he went through and looked at the code, and he could find, this code is doing this, and this code is doing that. So you could imagine using that kind of a process to, check for synergy across a team, right? You find out that within your team, this person over here is writing the same the same routine that this person is writing. You can get them together, they can collaborate, and one person can write it. And hey, manager, my machine learning application helped the team be more efficient. Or maybe you can do something like come up with automatic documentation. Who here writes software that has too much documentation? Okay, yeah. You notice everybody laughs. It's like obvious that there isn't enough good documentation in your code. So maybe you can use this same type of method to put in some comments. Or, this is a more advanced task, but you automatically generate some simple code tests, maybe some tests or something like that. Okay, but the point is you're going to have to apply this process to your specific situation, but I'm going to argue there are places within your organization, within your group, where you can apply machine learning and get value. And if you can do that, you can get your skill, you can get your practice to learn this capability right where you are while you're getting paid for it. Now, this process, the value stream mapping, is to identify possible projects. There's another piece. We don't want to just pick anyone. What we want to do is we want a ranking of these in terms of bang for the buck. How much effort do you have to put in versus how much value to get back? Remember the cartoon, was it your, John? Where the person on the right is saying, I want to know, tell me where they are, and the coder says, yeah, that's GPS, that'll take half an hour. Oh yeah, and I want to know if the picture has a bird in it. Okay, that'll take 2 years, right? So if you weren't here, you missed a good slide. So, different tasks are going to take, obviously, very different effort. So what you want to do is find the tasks that give a lot of value to the organization for less amount of your work. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you is, you learn, okay, I took this Coursera class, and they talked about these deep learning models, and they're so tremendously cool, and I want to use TensorFlow. But maybe you can do something of high value with good old regression, right? So don't overlook, try and match the most effective tool in your arsenal with what you have to do. Okay, but being a manager, you still haven't convinced your manager, right? Now she says, what should we watch out for? Because when we go to manager school, they teach us you have to worry about risks and mitigating risks and all that. So that's what we think about. Okay, so what are some of the pitfalls you can fall into? And some of these actually have been discussed today. Managers and organizations and people in general love looking for silver bullets. Okay, oh, well, just do this and it'll fix all our problems. At least in my experience, silver bullets are pretty rare, if ever. So this has a lot to do with, say, expectation setting. Don't get the expectation setting too high. Looking for keys under the lamppost. Who's heard this? This few of you, okay. So the joke is the man's walking down the street. He sees another man on his hands and knees under a lamppost, kind of looking around. He says, what's wrong? He says, well, I lost my keys. And he says, well, did you lose them here? No, I didn't lose them here, but this is the only place I can see. So this happens to us in machine learning a lot. For us, the light is data. Thank you. So we look where the data is. Now, that limits what you're going to find. And there may be situations where you need to go and get data, or you need to manipulate data, or just do something different. So watch out for that. Okay, conflation of effects and variables. This is something that is maybe subtle but very important. This could also be, you could think of this very similar to confusing causation with correlation. That's another one. If you're a statistician like me, you would think about confounding in terms of variables. But, for example, in my organization, we make money we have a call center, and we make money by calling people. So management may say, oh, I know, I've got an answer. If we have our call center operators call more people per unit time or per operator, we'll make more money. It seems so simple, so obvious. Well, what happens? You incentivize your call center operators to make more calls. What do you think happens? It's like, hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Hello, so they get their quota up, and it doesn't produce any more money. So in reality, the function of the output variable in terms of the inputs is actually quite nonlinear in the real world. So you must very carefully keep track of what's going on in the output as you're changing the inputs. Bring me a rock is another one. Who's heard of this one? Kind of a parable. So, it's probably some Buddhist something. But the version I know is the manager says to the employee, go get me a rock. The employee brings back a rock, and he says, no, I wanted a round rock. The employee goes out and gets a rock, brings back a round rock. No, I wanted a blue round rock. And it goes on and on. This is a big problem that we face. I mean, it's sort of wrapped into how Agile is designed. It's part of the process. But the more upfront work you can do with the customer to understand what it is they want, the much better off you're going to be. So do some upfront work to scope the problem as well as you can. You expect there will be some, you're going to probably do. By the way, when you're doing machine learning and data analytics, it is an agile process as well. So you're going to be used to that. But doing as much upfront scoping as you can is crucial. And then lack of domain expertise is where you're trying to understand a process that's not your expertise. So if you're in in our case, it's say a call center, you have to go, or you're doing you're working for a legal company, you have to go and talk to the lawyers so you can understand what is the legal process they're doing if you're going to be building a machine learning application that supports them. So get the domain expertise. Okay, so now, you've mowed down almost all the concerns of your manager. But now the manager says, hey, even if we have some success, how can we sustain it? So this is where I want you to think about building this virtuous cycle. So you go out, you've scoped out this project, you've cherry-picked the one at the top that's going to give you the biggest bang for the buck. You get a win. You deliver value to your manager. Now your manager is more enthused about it. You've got more organizational support. They're going to say, oh, that was great. Okay, now instead of just using 20% of your time, you can use 40% of your time or 50% of your time. And you go and deliver the next great project to your manager. And before long, you're full-time machine learning within your organization. So you finally knock down all the barriers for your manager. You've convinced them. They say, give you a shot. And that's it. Questions? Or no, well, can we get out of here in time? Yeah.